Much for joining us today. Thank you for all your support and all your donations. We're very lucky today to have two amazing people with us. We have iconic fashion designer Manish Malhotra and celebrated fashion journalist Sujata Assomull. Sujata is also the unofficial ambassador of our Quarant charity. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today. Thank you so much, Sujata and Manish. We're going to have...
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're so happy to be a part of this.
Great. Thank you so much. So we're going to have a small session between Manish and Sujata. Following that, we'll open up the Q&A. Whoever has questions, please do type your question on the chat and we'll call your name after the initial talk between Manish and Sujata. Sujata, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone who's joined us. I know we've got lots of students and lots of you who donated money. I just wanted you all to know the money is going to Habitat for Humanity, and it's going towards some essential care packages, which will include hygiene and food. So this is like really special, and I'm so happy to have Manish Malhotra here. I first met Manish 27 years ago, Manish. It is since I first met you. And I first interviewed you exactly 25 years ago. And actually, I think it was after Raja Hindustani came out. And Karisma Kapoor had this new, very sort of new age look. Her signature light eyes have been covered with brown lenses. You straightened her hair. You gave her these really modern Indian clothes, which kind of was like a new age look to what. And I remember I wrote a piece on you. But there was a lot of negative feedback at that moment to the piece. How did that make you feel? And you were actually quite positive about it, I remember. And do you remember why we got the negative feedback?
Well, I think it's been a part of my life too, because I think that whenever you try to do something which is different or which is very new, there is going to be a feedback which is of non-acceptance or of wonder. You know, what is this? And, you know, all of that. But I think that immediately Raja Hindustani was followed with Rangila. It was Rangila actually, which came first, and then Raja Hindustani. And the films kept coming and the look changed. And I think when the look completely changed and I introduced styling in India, I think then it got accepted. So I think initially whatever you're trying to do new is either very welcomed or suddenly there's always a resistance. And then I think it changes with time. I think you just have to be patient. You have to go with your belief. If you believe in it, for example, when from movies I got into mainstream, it had never happened that a costume designer is getting into mainstream fashion. So I actually never got the support of my own fraternity because for them, I was always an outsider, costume designer, and I had no business being as a couture or as in the mainstream business. And so everything was criticized, from the bling to saying that, you know, I make film stars by my clothes, or I introduced the showstopper concept or the front row of film stars. But years later, and it's become a norm. I mean, showstoppers are a norm. Having celebrities on your front row or making film stars wear your clothes is what every single designer in the country does. So I think you just have to stick by your belief. And for me, it was never a belief of business. It was people who I was working with and I was emotional about. And so when I did my first fashion show, I'd already done Rangila with Urmila. So I got Urmila to walk on the stage. So I think it's just that you just have to believe in yourself.
So that's another thing you've been criticized for. As you mentioned on your first show, I remember you had Lisa Ray open it and you had Urmila close it. The whole celebrity showstopper. Now every designer is using it. What is your take on the celebrity showstopper? And did you know that you were going to be introducing a phenomenon into Indian fashion when you did it?
No, like what I said was like what I just said was that Sujata, that for me it was an emotional thing because I had Rangila with Urmila and so many movies. I said, you know what, it's my first fashion show. You should walk. And then all the actors who were present also were people who I was working with. So it was never really, I had come from the movies, so I was making film stars with my clothes because I knew only them. I was just getting to know, because I used to not do weddings or anything earlier. It's only after I opened my store with Yashna Avanti Birla called Reveries when I met people for personal orders. Excuse me. So at that time it was more emotional, more personal.
But now when you see every designer doing celebrity showstoppers, do you feel that there needs to be a connect? You never just have anyone. It's never random with you.
No, I have to have a connect. But I also have a connect. So I guess, I have to have a connect. I also have to feel that the actor somewhere believes in my design or my brand or even if they don't wear my clothes that often, but there is yet some connection in terms of either we've done movies together and we've done those things together. But I think today is like a business, and the designer wants the eyeballs and they get a showstopper. And I don't think it's wrong. I think design is very fluid. I mean, it's all about what the designer thinks in terms of his creativity. When he can think, he has the freedom of thinking a concept for his collection. He also has the freedom, he or she also has the freedom of thinking on whoever they want to see their clothes on, or if they want a film star as a showstopper. So I think it's absolutely a creative call and a call of the designer.
But from those early days, any films that you look back on, or any collections you put on the ramp, which now you look back at and think, oh, maybe I should have done that better. Any fashion faux pas that Manish has made?
Oh, many. I mean, all of us have good
Please
taste.
share one that we can learn from.
Nobody's above it. I mean, in the sense that actually, honestly, like 5 years of modeling, and in those days I'd taken up working in boutiques as well. In those days, in the late 80s, boutiques were a big thing, that you work in a boutique. And then 30 years of a non-stop career and a very hectic career. In fact, this lockdown period, I've really gone down the memory lane, introspecting and looking back at my own work and thinking where I could have done, what I could have done better. But of course, there are so many films that you see, or so many shows that you see that you feel you could do much better. So
Just mention one moment.
One movie.
One movie, one moment, one outfit when you think, oh my God, I could have done that better.
Well, I got a lot of flack for Vidya Balan's Hey Baby. And even she got a lot of flack. That was the first time I'd got so much flack for a film.
And if you had to do something different, what would you do different now?
Well, I would not keep quiet. I think a lot of times when the directors insisted on something, or I kept quiet on it. I said, okay, it's the director's film and I must keep quiet here. But maybe I would now put my foot down and say, no, this doesn't really work. We'll have to do it like this. So yeah, I guess that's what it would be.
You were the first costume designer I know to go abroad and shop. I think it was for Sridevi and for Judai, right? How do you balance putting in your own clothes in a film and know what to source? How do you balance it out? Because I think when a lot of designers do a film, they use it as a showcase to show off their work. But you manage to keep the balance between it being about your label and what is good for the film. You get it very exact.
Well, that's because I think I started my career as a costume designer, and before me, the costumes were always made. But I bought in the whole system of styling, because what I felt was, and then of course, in those days we used to do songs in Switzerland where the heroines are in chiffon saris and the heroes are in the trench coats and the mufflers. And then the concept of films changed, and then the film shifted to London and New York. And I felt that the characters, if they're in London, you can't really stitch their clothes in Mumbai. They have to wear the fashion or the style of where they belong. It's really essential, because you're styling and costuming a character. So before me, it was just costume designing. But what I managed to do was mix costume design and styling. Because I think it's really important. So when you do a film, it's not about you as a designer. It's about you as a costume designer and a stylist. You have to keep that in mind. It cannot be that you are only going to showcase your clothes. Like, for example, if some character is an edgy character, the other character is a fashionista, the third character is somebody who doesn't believe in fashion at all. So you have to make those kind of clothes. So, like, for example, if you see a film, like if you see Desi Girl, the song, which had the silver grey side, and if you see Dostana, Priyanka was modeled to be the entire fashionista. But if you see Jab We Met, Karina's character is a character of a small town who's quite boisterous, and she's full of life and zest. So her clothes had to be Indian Western mix. So that concept of a t-shirt and a salwar, a denim jacket and kurta, with jeans folded up. So mixing that day-to-day Indian wears, became the norm. And actually, after that film, today all over India, that is the norm of dressing, where you wear a kurti and a jeans, or you wear a denim jacket over a kurta, because that mix, that intermix of Indian and Western day-to-day wear came in. So I think it's very important that when you're hired, I think I'm the true professional. If I'm hired as a costume designer and a stylist, there I'm not the Manish Malhotra, the label. I am that costume designer and the stylist. And when I'm doing my fashion show, I'm not the costume designer and the stylist, then I'm that designer. So I think what you are asked to do, you have to be true to that. And I think that's important for any profession.
you bring a sense of fantasy to everything. Even you redefine how we look at on screen, but you redefine the bride also. Whether it's in your films, I mean, from DDLJ and Kajol, to films you've done much after, Preeti Zinta's looks. You just remember all their bridal looks, and then even on the ramp, the ball gown lehenga, the non-ending trail like dupatta. There's such fantasy in everything you do. Where does this fantasy? How are you able to always bring fantasy to everything?
I don't know. Maybe it was like the other day. My mother was telling me that when I was in KG, the KG club, upper KG, she got me a tuition teacher, and the tuition teacher turned around and told my mother that what do I teach him? Every day he's criticizing my shoe, or he's telling me this jacket doesn't match. And I was all about 4 or 5, and I used to tell her that this jacket is not looking nice, and all of that. And I think my window to the world was through movies. My entire childhood is in a film theater, fascinated by color, fascinated by music, fascinated by what I'm seeing on screen, and larger than life concepts. And I think that stayed with me. And when I learned art and sketching in my 6th standard, and I really practiced on that, I think for me, everything was like a celebration. It was there was a lot more celebration in everything. And that's I think how I see life. I see it positive. I see it a celebration, and I think that it's so important. And I think the lockdown teaches us that
You
that
think
every
that in the
moment is
post-lockdown world, this fantasy is still what is going to be the new fantasy? I mean, people are saying things are going to be more controlled. People are going to not want to be so.
Well, I think there's going to be more control and not as well. It's going to be a parallel. I don't think it's going to be one over the other, because I think that definitely you've got to look at sustainability. Every designer has to be a lot more responsible, and also create a lot of their garments with what they already possess. Like there's so many times that we have leftovers of fabrics and beautiful embroideries that are just not looked at. But in my office, we give them to a charity organization. So all our clothes, many of the clothes, we give them to charitable home. We give to charity to old homes and things like that. We do that constantly. In fact, there are 2 age-old homes that we support, and we give our clothes there as well. The ones which are wearable, not the lehengas and all, but all of those. So I think that it's very important for designers to come out with a sustainable and a more responsible collection. Second thing would be to, I think, also probably come out with a collection which is very adaptable. It's easily, you can wear it, you can, you can just kind of, they're very priced really reasonably and all of that. But the part of
So does that mean you're going to come out with a more affordable line so more of us can afford your clothes?
Absolutely, but also that little part of me which believes in fantasy, and which believes in that larger than life concept is also not going to die down. That's going to be there as well. So there will be a collection which also caters to that, or which also satisfies that instinct and design in me. And I think that what I have to do now is, or what a lot of designers should do, is add a lot more variation. So the clothes are, reachable, adaptable, wearable.
So like something that can be worn as a jacket and a sari blouse, like pieces that have multi-purposes should be important.
Yes, for sure.
And things you can dress up and down.
For sure. I think the biggest trend is this.
It is even fashion's responsibility to give that escape, to be that world of a dream, isn't that? And people are going to want to dream after that. Is that not an important role too?
Come again on that question? Sorry, I didn't get that.
The role of fashion is that we are meant to give people that escape place. We're meant to ask people to dream, and our clothes shouldn't lose that too.
Yeah, and I feel, Sujata, that the latest trend is being trendless. And I think that for people, it's more, they're going to speak out their personalities even more after the lockdown. And I think that in every outing that they go, or every garment that they buy, they are going to be themselves as well. And I think there's going to be a lot of revival of their older clothes and all that. I think so personalities are going to trend. It's the people who are going to trend. It's not necessarily the clothes that are going to trend. And I think people are going to wear clothes the way they want to and come out in this situation. And I think that we somewhere underestimate the world and all of us, because I think people are really going to fight this back and really come out even more stronger. And I think it's the personalities of each person which is going to become a biggest trend. The biggest trend.
Sherry's asked a very good question. I'm going to just take you back to the showstoppers. And she's asking, do you feel that there's more focus on the showstopper than there is on the designer's clothes? I mean, because always when you see the picture in any newspaper, it's always of the showstopper. And does it take away you, do you think, from the collection?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because I tell you something. There have been a couple of shows of mine where I felt that the showstopper outfit didn't get as much as response as the other clothes did, or the showstopper outfit didn't sell as fast as the other clothes did. So ultimately, it is about the garment, right? So, like for example, I feel in a film, and it's ultimately about the script. You can pad it with beautiful locations, you can pad it with lots of big film stars, but ultimately the content matters. So I think it's not necessary that if you have a big showstopper, the collection is going to sell faster. There's nothing like that. Ultimately, the truth is what will sell is what people like, and what, you know. So there've been a lot of times when I felt that the showstopper outfit, in fact, didn't get that response. I'm talking in the stores, whereas the other part of the collection got. So
we have lots of students I know on here, so I wanted to ask you. You know, you started as a model. I know you were the gold spot boy, and then you went and you worked in a store, and then you had a label with the Birla's Reverie, and then you worked with Sheetal Design Studio. There's been so much you've been through. Do you think that's important, that you're never going to make it the first time and you should try lots of different things?
well, I think it's very important, because see, for me, I actually followed my dream because I was so interested in movies. I was very fascinated with color. I used to paint. I joined the painting class in 6th standard. I became really good with sketching and drawing, and that's why I passed my science exams. Others, I was not good in studies. And modeling just happened, and I got busy there as well. But I continued with my passion for sketching and films, of course, and clothes. And I started working in a boutique. And I remember the owner of the boutique asking me that you changed this mannequin how many times? I used to drape, I used to pin it. I used to sit and put tracing paper and continuously sketch. I used to tell them, give me extra work. And I used to take all the alterations to the tailors, sit with the tailors, understand cutting, ask them questions, because I was passionate and I was interested. I mean, at that time, I was like, either I'll become a film director or I'll become a designer, but it has to be something with movies, because I loved films so much. And I felt in the late 80s, the style from films had gone. So I was like, I want to come into films and do something, there. So when I came into movies, my only thought process was that I want to better the look of films. And with my work getting popular, I got calls at home to do wedding clothes. I flatly said, no, I don't do wedding clothes. I don't do collections. I'm only a costume designer and a stylist. 10 years later, when I got really, popular and everything, that's when Yash Navanthi offered me a store. And then I said, okay, now it's been 10 years and that was 9 years. And I said, let me take that. So I think it's very important to set your base into something, really set yourself there, really establish the base, and then get on to doing things. So I was 1.5 years with Reverie, then I joined Sheetal Design Studio. And in 2005, I launched my own label. So compared to me, my label is much younger.
You don't have to just start with your own label. That, you can start somewhere
So
else.
it's a very interesting story. Actually, at that time, I had just left Sheetal Design Studio, and it was Karishma Kapoor's wedding. And I finished that wedding, and I was at home, and I was writing a script because I wanted to direct a film. And I started getting calls at my house, people coming to my house at this wedding, that one. I was like, how am I going to do all this from my home? And then I asked my brother and sister-in-law to join me. And I said, let's start a store, let's take a place, and let's start a label. And we'll make lighter collections because I'm going to be directing a film. So we started with tunics and all of that. And in the meantime, the script was ready, and I was discussing the cast and all of that. And we took our first collection to Ensemble, and Tina called me up the next day, and in 2 days I said, everything is sold. I need more clothes. In the meanwhile, we got some other orders. So now we started getting so busy with all of that. And then at that time, I was also shooting for a TV show, which I was anchoring. It was called the Manish Malhotra Show. Now I'm doing this Manish Malhotra Show for Zoom channel. Zoom channel was just being launched. I am writing my script for this film that I want to direct, and I've launched my own label, and I'm working day and night there as well. So it was getting crazy. I finished my 50 episodes of that show. I told bye-bye to that film, and I completely got into the label. So that's how it all happened.
I know your weddings are a big thing. Do you think weddings will go back to those big formal weddings? Everyone's saying now that weddings, you know, the big fat Indian wedding is going to shed many kilos and be a skinny wedding now.
Well, I don't know. I think that people will be a little more conscious, and I think it's correct. I don't you think so? I think people will have to be sensitive about the situation.
So what's your take on revenge buying? There's, you know, there've been talks that in China there were queues outside the Hermes store when everything opened up.
I definitely feel people in India will be more conscious and like I said, also sensitive. I don't think people are going to really go crazy with lavish weddings right now, with, you know, because I think we are going to take time to come back to normalcy. But so I think there will be buying. I'm not sure on revenge buying, but I think a very important thing for designers would be to definitely look at their price points, to definitely give a lot of variety in collections, and also make a very adaptable collection, like I mentioned earlier. And I think the wedding clothes will have to be a lot more based on style and innovation, and not necessarily just opulence. I think innovation will be the new opulence.
The trending right now thing within India, of course, is handmade in India. You've always been someone who's tried to revive, whether it's chicken curry, you know, work very closely with Kashmir. Do you think that craft really is now going to become the hero of Indian fashion?
I definitely think it should, because I think designers should get together and definitely revive the dying crafts, and they're so beautiful. And if someone like me, who's all known for glamour and glitz and drama and like you said, fantasy, I think when I'm doing it, and so I definitely think a lot of designers should definitely do that. And I think all crafts should be revived, and it's going to be really good for all of us.
Is there any craft that you have your eye on next? I know that you're very good at picking up a craft.
So I think that I did Fulkari about a couple of years ago, and then that got picked up at the Philadelphia Museum, and I recreated that collection for Philadelphia Museum. So I'm looking at something based in Punjab that I want to definitely do. I'm also speaking to my people in Banaras. I want to start something there as well. I mean, I do work in Banaras, but I want to do a lot more. And also look at Mijwa, Awadh, UP and Kashmir, what more we can do. So I think definitely we're going to do a step up in that, for sure.
So you're going to do Fulkar. We can see that color is definitely making a comeback, according to you, post-COVID.
Well, definitely. Color and innovation. I think it's very, very important for all of us to reinvent and recreate a new look, I think, you know. And people are going to be really open. They're going to be like, they might just want to buy a jacket from you and wear it over their kurta that they already have, or they might have their granny sari, which is a beautiful old world Banarsi sari, but wear it with your jacket. So there's going to be such an interesting take on fashion, I feel, this coming season, where people are going to really step out there and revive their own clothes as well as buy and mix. That intermix is going to be fabulous.
Christy Goyle's asking you, how do you get into costume designing as a fresher?
So I think that, first of all, you have to ask yourself, do you really want to? I think there are a lot of times that everything looks so easy that it looks like, okay, I'm going to be with film stars. I'm going to be on a film set. It's not that easy. It's very tough because the shooting time cannot change. So there are alterations and changes and you have to do them. I have sat up all night, guys, and worked and come home, had a shower and gone to the set. So in those days, we never had assistants or any such thing. In fact, when we traveled abroad, I would pick up things, give fittings to the actor, alter them in the night, go back to location, dress them up, style them, then go for exchanging. So it was to be days and days of walking everywhere and picking up stuff. So I think that the interest in script, the interest in narrative and storytelling is quite important if you want to be a costume designer. And in style, as a stylist, I think it's really important that how you can bring in the personality. I think sometimes I see styling as good styling, but very important is to bring out the person's personality. So I see a lot of actresses today, when they're styled, they all tend to look similar. So one girl's done one style, everybody else is doing it. But that's not good, because I think you need to bring in every actor's personality. They all are different and they all have something interesting. Or whoever you're styling, it could be a bride, it could be a business person, it could be a working person. So I think that's very important. And to get into costumes, maybe you have to assist a costume designer so that you understand how it works on a film set, and that's how you could get into it.
What about, is there any other ways except for assisting a film designer? I think it's important to work on a film set before maybe in another role.
But if you know a director, if you know an actor who likes your work, then that's important. So let me tell you what happened with me. I actually kept 2 tailors at home and I started making clothes. And then one of my sister-in-laws was going to Hong Kong. She ordered in those days, I'm talking about 1989, okay, 1990. 1989. She asked me to make clothes for it. My cousin sister saw those clothes. And then she recommended to her husband, David Dhawan. Lali Dhawan recommended my cousin sister. And so he saw some of the clothes and he said, okay, why don't you do a song for me for, a film called Swarik for Juhi Chano. That was in the year 1989. And 1990s when I fully got into film. So everywhere, it's not just an influence. At the end of the day, a movie director wants to see your work as well. So if you have sketches, if you have thoughts, put it all together and, maybe take characters of films that we've all already done and do a new look on it. Like if you were dressing up Geet today, the character Kareena played in Jab We Met, how would you dress her up? And I think put all of that in a docket, take it to a film director or an actor or a producer or somebody on a film set, show them that, listen, I'm so interested. And I'm sure they'll kind of, if it's good, they'll definitely lap it up or they'll definitely take you on.
Thanks so much, Manish. I'm going to now hand over to the lovely people at Quorum Charity because there's so many questions coming in and I know everybody wants to speak to you. So I'm going to ask them to field questions. And everybody, please ask Manish anything you want to know. This is a great opportunity to have a masterclass with Manish.
Thank you. I think we'll start with Simran.
Hi.
Hi, Simran.
Hi. So my question is that.
Simran, can you ask your question?
Yes.
Maybe she's feeling shy. She wanted to know what should a new label that has just entered the fashion industry do to survive this current crisis?
Like I said, innovation is going to be the star. If you have to really do a fabulous rethink. And also maybe widen your thought process. It doesn't really have to be just clothes. If there's some product design or there's something else that you feel you want to add to it, you should, because it's not necessarily, like for someone like me, I'm also thinking, what are the other things that I could also add to my collection? And maybe there could be a new route coming up there. But I think innovation is king right now. And you really need to come up with something, something absolutely different from what everybody else would be thinking. So it's a testing time for all of us.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Meghna, you're up next. Okay, I think she's not there. We'll move on to Kuship. Kuship, you can please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hi. Hope all of you are doing great. So, Manish, I am Kuship. I'm the designer at Wapai Kuship Tanwar. I would like to know how has the situation made an impact on your label? Also, what are the currently new ways of your label trying to go into the sustainability zone as the world is currently asking for?
Well, as of now, we are absolutely shut. So it's a huge effect on the business. We are trying to work on our digital content and reach out to people. But right now, I think right now the time is not about business. Right now the time is to be sensitive. So for example, we've recently just started making masks as well. And that's not in my work factories because they're all shut. But people who are looking for some employment and for money to make masks in their home. And I think this is the time not really for business as much as it is for sensitivity. And when I speak about sustainable, I think when we start work again, it will be of not too much wastage. We'll be far more conscious than maybe we've been earlier. And also, like I mentioned, I think more than sustainable, be responsible and come up with collection of a lot of the beautiful craft and a lot of beautiful things that we have from Kashmir or Mishwa and various other fabrics and make collections out of those rather than now adding a lot more, and using up the wastage in best possible ways. And but for all of that, again, reinvent and innovation would be two strong words when we start again. I mean, we'll have to do a complete rethink and put it all together as aesthetically as we would want to.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Hi, Manya, you can go next.
Hi.
Hi.
So I just wanted to ask you, what are your views on sustainable and fast fashion? As after this pandemic, people will be more concerned about their health and obviously quality. So what are your views on it?
Well, I definitely think that the world is not really looking for an overdose of fashion. So I think the movement has to be slow. We all have to slow down a bit for this year, especially. And I don't think people are looking at excess. They do not want so much of a supply, or they don't want to. So I think whether it's fast fashion, whether it is even in couture or wedding clothes or all of that, I think it will have to be slow. And like I've been mentioning, that I think it's so important for every brand and designer to look in their archives or in their production companies. What is that all that they have? And to probably reset that and also be a little price friendly and take a little bit of a beating, if I may say so, on that in business wise, and definitely be far more conscious. I think that all of us together as a nation, as the world, we need to be far more sensitive than just think about business, and we definitely have to be very, very price conscious and see to it that all the customers out there, that our prices are really good, so that they open up to shopping, and they would not want access. So I think we need to go slower on the production as well, and concentrate a lot more on innovation and reconstruction of garments, maybe using what you already have. And that's how be more responsible. For me, I'll tell you something. I think sustainable is a word which is overused. For me, I think being responsible is a far more important word. And I think that all of us will have to be very responsible.
Thank you.
Thanks. Ahana, you're up next.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So how does one promote their business to an appropriate clientele, or how do you find the right clients for your business?
To do that, first of all, you have to be really clear about your business. And secondly, you have to be very, very clear about the kind of client you're looking at, because everyone you can't satisfy. And so there has to be a very clear niche that you also, if you heard my conversation with Sujata, I got a lot of bashing when I came into mainstream. And I got a bashing from my own fraternity on Showstopper, on Bling, on Glamour, on Film Stars, all of it. But I came from the world of costumes. I was continuing working in the movies. I still am. It's 30 years in the films this year. So I could not break that link, and I didn't want to break that link. So I said, if I'm working with them, they will wear my clothes, and I will have to invite them for my shows because I know them and I work with them. And I stuck to that. And it was not a year or 2 years. It was years of bashing, let me tell you that.
You had a very, 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 I know at Fashion Weeks at the beginning, it was difficult for you.
Yeah, but I stuck to it. So I think it's very important to understand your ethos and to understand your emotion and your passion to it. And when you're very clear on what it is, there will be a time when people will turn around, they'll accept you, they will see what you're trying to say, they will look at your product the way you want them to look at it. So I think that's important. And I think that if you're looking at a certain kind of, what are the kind of people that you're looking at is very, very important also. So know your brand very clearly, get to the core of the ethos of it, and then stick to it.
Thank you.
I think Simran has another question. Simran, you can.
Yeah, Simran Kapoor.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
So as you mentioned that, like as new designers, you need to be really innovative with your work. But like when it comes to consumers, they would obviously want to spend on the brands which have been existing in the market since a long time. And also like now, as you said, that people would not want to spend on fast fashion, on products which are produced in such a large quantity. So like how will a new designer who is already there in the market will cope up with that? Because a designer can be innovative, but what if the designer is not able to attract that much population? So what do you think? Like how does a designer cope up with that sort of a problem? Because as a new designer, as a person you're starting a business, you do not have so much investments as well.
Well, the situation is tough. The situation is definitely difficult, but it's as difficult as it is for you, as it is difficult for me. It's not that because if you are new, you also come with less expenditure and lesser responsibility. While as someone like me who has 3 large stores and a huge set of people working with me, come with a much bigger responsibility as well. So they're different genres, but they're yet the same, similar boat. So I think that today's audience has changed. I mean, I was talking to a couple of days back to some of the stores that my clothes go to. Today it's not just about the name. They're also looking at the product. They're also looking at the price point. I think a lot of times where the designers, young designers make a mistake is when they see a little bit of a fanfare on social media and all of that. They kind of tend to think that if you want to be really a big designer, you have to hike your price. But that's not true anymore. Or I don't think it was ever. But that was a belief. But I feel that if your product is well priced, it's a good product, it's different, it will have its buyer. It might be a bit slower than maybe a known name, but eventually it will have its buyer.
Okay. And,
you have to believe in that. You have to go with that faith and that strong belief. You have to.
Okay. That does make sense. And one small thing, if you've not entered the industry yet, do you think that this is not the correct time to, launch your own brand and wait for some time and then do it because of the given situation?
It's how you look at it. It could also be that you get into it right now and do a smaller collection, but you will have that time to go through the ups and downs. And like they say that, initially when you get into something, you have a lot of teething problems and learning experiences. This could become that time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Manya, you're up next.
Hello once again. So I just want to ask you, what's your view on fashion shows going digital?
See, in a way, like earlier, we were like, it kind of started getting really grand and like first was 200 people, then 500 people, 700 people in a show. But today, in fact, in the last 2 or 3 years, even if you have 200 people, as long as the show is beautifully shot digitally, when I say beautifully shot, where you can see the garments really clearly and from all different angles, and it reaches the world via YouTube, via Instagram and all of that. So I think in a way it's already become quite digital. And I think it's a good idea. I mean, it's an interesting idea where you probably just do a fashion show called really few people or called no one, but shoot it and put it out there. So I think with social media and the digital forwardness today, your work could reach places. Like say, for example, even all the students who've been asking me questions. When we worked, it took years for people to notice also. But today, you can put it out there immediately. As soon as you make something and you get a quick response because everything is very quick. The flip side to that is they forget things also as quickly. So you have to consistently go on with it. But I think digital fashion shows is a way forward for sure. Because it will lessen the expenditure of the show and yet you'll be able to show your work to the world.
Okay, thank you.
Girish, you're up next.
You're sounding like a school teacher, by the way.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, so I have a question. And it's more around, personally, I'm feeling really uninspired lately because just generally there's so much uncertainty and it's kind of scary. And my question is there something that's inspiring you? Like what's motivating you today for the future, really?
So I think that in this lockdown period, I've gone through different phases of being bored, being fed up, being uncertain, being anxious, being stressed. But I think that I also make it a point to think of that and then say, I'm not going to think of this, right? I'm not going to think of this. I'm going to get down to sketching. It's been whatever. It could be something as simple as what I was doing while the session was going to start. And I love coloring, by the way. Or that, listening to music, watching the movie. I don't want to get addicted to this thing. And like right now, I'm focusing on losing weight. The last 3 years, I've not been able to do it. Spending a lot of quality time with my parents. So I don't think, so just today my mother was asking me that she's stressing. So she said, aren't you stressing? I said, no, right now I'm not stressing. I think it's very important for all of us to be at home. And I'm trying to be, I make a big point to be positive about it. So I walk a lot in my house. I'm cutting down on my food. So I think that it's very important to give yourself a goal. Like, so for example, in the first 21 days of lockdown, I was vegetarian. I had dinners at 5:36 or no dinner at all because, and I did a walk within the house, all of that. So I think that it's very important to also give yourself that purpose, give yourself that, okay, this many days I'll do this. And I think that, and then you find your way, because if you think 24 hours, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's going to stress you further. And you're just going to get anxious. So distract yourself to good things. And like, for example, like I love retro. I love old movies. I love black and white films. But now I've thought that from today till the 3rd of May, I'm going to only watch documentaries. Enough of retro. I'm going to sit and watch all documentaries. So I think each time give yourself something like, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that. And like there's so many coffee table books in my house and I barely see them. So I make it a point now to see each one of them. I have Tom Ford, I have Louis Vuitton, I have so many of them. And I'm looking at them at different, completely a different perspective. So I think that it's important that we kind of also distract ourselves to innovation, to being innovative, to health, to, like I've been talking to my friends from college who I've not been in touch with for 5 or 6 years. So reach out to people, I'm in touch with my teams. So I think different things and distract yourself and you'll lessen the anxiousness and the stress. And I'm sure one morning there'll be something really creative out there.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
So I have someone who's sent me a private message saying that they want me to ask their question. They want to know, you wear so many different hats. You have your costume styling for movies, you have your labels, and you seem to be juggling a lot of different things at once. So they want to know, how do you balance that and how do you prioritize between, say, the films and your labels?
So what I do is that when I'm discussing a costume and a film, I completely get into that. I know that these things are pending. I'm going to come to that. So I tell my people that I'm going to come to that. My attention span is really weak, by the way, but I give myself that. Then I say, I'm going to come back to this. And many a times I'm an early riser. I wake up at 5:36, 5, things like that. I'm not such a night person. So I will tell them, I will call you back in the morning on this answer. So I think you need to prioritize. You can also make a list, guys. Like, see, like I make this list here, I've numbered things and, like here I've written also 1, 2, this is what I have to do. So I think it's important. Sometimes this can also stress you because then there's so many things pending. But I think that giving it that priority is very important and full attention to what you're doing and then move on to the next topic. I think that's the way I kind of work. So when I'm sitting with the bride, I'm understanding what she's looking for, and I love to discuss hair, makeup, what jewelry are you wearing, all of that. And then when I'm discussing a character or a film, then I pay attention to it, and also I say, okay, so this is what we need to do. That's the only way to juggle it.
Thank you.
And I also think that you have to add extra hours of work. So maybe because I really wake up early, I can cope up with a lot more work. And maybe for someone who's more of a night person and can work till later in the night, they'll have to give it that extra hours as well. So my working day is not 8 hours. My working day is 12 hours, 16 hours.
Thank you. Sherry, you're up next.
Manish, I have a question for you. I know you started before social media and Instagram and YouTube and all of that. So how do you think social media has influenced fashion today? I do know that a lot of bloggers like myself do play a role in terms of course, bridging that gap between, high fashion and the girl next door and trying to put them both out together and find that balance somewhere. But does it really affect sales? Like, what, in your opinion, pre and post the social media world? I want to know what your thoughts are.
So let me speak about what after the social media. It's a very good question. After the social media has come in. So the pros here are that there's a certain awareness there's a certain awareness and the world awareness, like in the sense that you know what Alexander McQueen is doing, what Louis Vuitton is doing, what Tom Ford is doing, what Virgil Abloh is doing, what an Indian designer is doing, what an Indian craftsperson is doing. So it's all there, the information, right? So the standard has to be much higher. And there's a lot of information today, and you know that, okay, this is working and this is not working. Stylists are there, bloggers are there, all of that. The con to that is that there's too much information. So there's a certain level of lesson attention span and quick acceptance also, and a quick moving on as well. Before social media, it took you time, but when your work was noticed and liked, people were loyal to it. People stuck to it for years. Today, I'm not sure about that loyalty. Today, I feel people will move on very fast. So the client today or a person today will be far more disloyal, because you can't blame them, because there is just so much coming up every day. There's just so much information coming up every day. Even a film star who's being styled by different designers, if they're wearing a gown on one day, they're wearing a complete contrasting designer's work the next moment on the red carpet. So there is a lot out there, which gets your work that eyeballs very quickly. But also the fear there is that they could also lose interest very quickly.
Also, do you think that it affects plagiarism a lot more? Because I feel like all the designers I work with, they're always like, oh, you're going to wear the outfit and then we're going to have copies everywhere, because people don't want to pay a full price for it. They just want to copy it. And with social media, it's become so easy because, as you said, everything is out there and it's instant. So like, you send me an outfit, I post it in my house right now. While things are closed, someone somewhere is going to copy it and put it out there before you have a chance to put it out there. So how do you feel about that? Because I see that happening a lot, especially because a lot of people send me images when I've worn something and they're like, oh, here, there's a copy of this outfit that you wore. And it almost angers me because I feel like I've had a part to play in that, where I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? But, as a designer, how does that make you feel?
Let me tell you something really funny. This is about 5 years ago, I think, when all this was just coming in, or had already come in. So I'd done a show in Delhi at Couture Week, and Deepika had walked, and Shah Rukh had also come for that show. So it was a blue lehenga, velvet lehenga. It's the first time somebody had introduced royal blue. And it was full of antique work, and there was a whole blue, big sleeve top and all of that. Now, I've gone to this bride's wedding in Delhi, and she is wearing it. She's wearing that outfit for her Sangeet. And I enter the wedding, and I see another girl wearing the same outfit. Of course, a much more cheaper version. And I'm going on stressing that the bride is going to see this outfit and think that, my God, what is this? What is Manish made? And how will I tell her this is not me and somebody else's thing, And eventually the bride was also laughing at me, look at my own copies here. But I think earlier people were quite open to wearing what film stars are wearing or what is really popular. But over the time, it's lessened. Today, a lot of people that, oh, this is really popular, I really like it, but I want to wear my version to it. Like I mentioned earlier, that the trend today, the biggest trend today is trendless. Today, people are the trend. People want to wear things, they want that information from a blogger, stylist, designer, everything that they're getting on social media, but eventually wear it their way. But with so much access, yes, copying is going to go on, and that is a huge hindrance to the business. But then I guess that is what we are living with right now. I mean, there's so many things that I see on Instagram where they are actually selling your clothes on discounted rates, and you're like, and we've sent them legal letters and legal notices, and how are you doing it? And some of them have gone to your store slyly and bought a piece, and then they put it up on for sale. So there's a lot of all of that going on, and I hope legally this all is stopped and everybody's work gets its fair justice.
Thank you. So I have a few people who seem to be wanting me to ask the question. So I'm going to go for the next few. So there's a fashion design student who wants to know, once she's done with her course, what's the next step she should take? She's concerned that due to the situation right now, there won't be internships available. And basically, overall, she wants your advice on what would your advice be to a fashion student today?
Well, I think if internships are not available, don't waste your time. Even if you're at home, start putting up sketches or painting or painting your clothes, painting your clothes or creating an art out of it, sketching, maybe making some clothes, a very, very limited collection, putting it out on Instagram, or reaching out to some personal clients, or maybe if you're getting into movies, look out for another job as maybe as an assistant to the director or the producer, and not necessarily in the field of costume. If you're coming out in a label and maybe you're not getting a intern with a designer, but then look at like an export company or something that's got to do with product design or garment design. So maybe your journey might be a little different, and that could turn out to be very interesting. So I think that all of us, once we come down of lockdown, we really don't have to carry the burden of this. We have to look at life with a complete new angle, that maybe this is not the path, maybe that's the path. For me also, I came from a costume path. I didn't come, like a lot of the designers in mainstream fashion have been design students or have worked with assistants and started their labels, and have had that dream of taking their label to a higher scales. In my case, I came from a costume world. I didn't even think I was going to ever have a label or get into mainstream fashion. So I think that maybe this is going to have a lot of different paths for us, and we have to just take them on. But I would recommend not to waste time. I definitely feel you should get down to working. I think that's really important. And even if till you get a job, continue sketching, continue putting thoughts, continue putting some ideas together, if not the clothes.
I mean, can I just add one thing? I actually think it's a really good time for students to get in touch with designers or with anyone right now, because people at home, as a journalist, I have been able to reach out to designers who would never normally give me quotes, but it's been easier for me to reach out to them right now because people are home. And I think in the post-COVID world, the role of internships is actually going to be much more important. People are going to need help. They're not going to have maybe able to pay for so much help. So I think in turn, this is a great opportunity for young people to take hold of. And actually, if they, whether it's a magazine or a designer or whoever it is, this is a great time to reach out. Everyone's at home, and then afterwards make it very clear that you're available to work.
Great, thank you. So we have another question that I've been asked to ask about fast fashion. The person here wants to know, is there a place in the industry for a brand that does not conform to fast fashion? Is that a profitable route?
Well, like I mentioned, that if the product is really good and if the product is innovatively strong and has something new to say, design is such a vast spectrum and such a vast platform that it will definitely work. I don't see any reason for it not to work.
Great, thank you. Manshu, you're up next. If you can unmute and ask.
Yeah. Hello, sir. So my question is, post-COVID-19, what impact will happen on the luxury market in fashion? And what about the craftsmen who are related to this luxury market?
Well, I think it will be very responsible of every designer to do so and look into the craft and look at the craftsmen and see to it that none of the crafts, the dying crafts, are revived, and also to see to it that there are work with the craftsmen. I think that's really important. I don't think it's a time to just see, of course, business will be important once it starts, but I think there will also be a certain kind of sensitive socialness that every designer will have to come out with. And like I've mentioned earlier, that business will be slow. I don't think the world will be ready for too much of fashion. I think it's a time to be a lot more slower, more calmer, and give out a lot more sensitivity to your people, whether that is via better prices, whether that is a more wearable collection, more adaptable collection, like say for a wedding or a Diwali function or something. People would like to dress up, but probably they don't want to dress up in really grand clothes or very expensive clothes. So I think that that it's not a time to just see profit right now. It's also the time to give your people clothes which are pretty, which are festive, which are beautiful, but not overpriced and sensitively priced. And I think these are the small steps that all of us will have to take as an industry and as people. And I think we will definitely see a better year ending. But initially, I think that is what it would be.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have one last question. Pooja, can you unmute and please ask? Okay, actually, they've just sent me a message saying they want me to ask again. So, what advice would you give to an individual who is starting a sustainable fashion brand, given the current retail recession, the threat of a current retail recession?
Well, first of all, I seriously feel sustainable is a word which is overused. And in the whole thing of sustainability, there are a lot of designers that you see in Fashion Week and all of that. So I think that I look at more being responsible than being even more than sustainable. But I think that first of all, you have to really make sure that what you're going to say through your collection, your narrative is very new, is sensitive to the situation. Otherwise, there are too many people, too many designers speaking about sustainable, sustainability, sustainable fashion. So you've got to be very careful. I'm going to come up with a sustainable collection, but using all the things that we already have, recycling them and putting it together. So I think that your narrative will have to be very new. That is very important. And like I really feel, guys, it could be a slow movement, but if you have something good to say through your collection and your quality, your garment, there will be a buyer. There will be a buyer. Maybe not today, maybe it might take some time, but eventually there will be a buyer. So it will definitely believe, in fact, more so now, where every brand, every designer should reinvent and will, I think, reinvent and innovate. I think the collection will have to be really, really thought about and new.
Thanks so much, Manish. Just wanted to ask, we've covered so much today. When you're not busy like making beautiful drawings in a matter of seconds, and you're watching your favorite movies and music, can you give us some of the artists or some of the movies and songs you like to listen to?
So I'm a huge Hindi film buff. I love to watch all the 40s and the 50s, 60s films because I love black and white films. And the 60s and the 70s films were a huge influence. In fact, when I did movies like Raja Hindustani, which was, Sujata was speaking about, it was a lot of the 60s influence of color and all of that. And I love seeing black and white films. I don't really see actually costume. I also see I love the art decor set design of that time. So I really like to see the entire lifestyle and the decor that it has, if you know. And sketching is not always just clothes. It could be even a flower. It could be a product, object. I also listen to a lot of Gulzar and Adi Burman's music. I watch a lot of. I've been watching some web series as well, and so I do like a good mix of everything.
Great. So we're kind of running out of time. Any concluding thoughts from you, Manish, and you, Sujata, as to once the dust settles on this crisis, where do you see fashion in 6 months from now, and any other thoughts you want to share with all the potential internship applicants on this call?
I am really, really positive and really confident that when you say 6 months from now, things are going to be really back, and we'll all look back at this like, okay, this is a phase that passed by. And like that word that this shall pass as well. So definitely, I think that we definitely have to be very, very positive right now. We have to think positive. We have to think, yes, it's not going to just open up and everything's going to become like wow again. It's going to take its time, but there is definitely going to be a day within 6 months where everything is going to be back to where it was. But for the brands and designers to survive, it is going to innovation and reinvent is going to be key.
I think what Manish said about responsibility is really important, and that's going to be the key word that drives everything we do. I think that this moment has taught us and made us pause and realize the need to be more responsible as consumers and as people. And I think what's come out is that things are going to be we're going to be much kinder people, I think, kinder in even the way we approach everything. So I think that's going to be the main thing. And I really do like that word, responsible fashion, as being the future. So thanks, Manish. I think that really summed up the direction that we all need to go in.
Thank you so
thank you guys.
much.
Thank you so much.
Manish, you said this. You had the Manish Malhotra show on the Zoom channel. 50 episodes. Thanks to Sujata, we got episode 51 of the Manish Malhotra show on our own Zoom channel.
Guys, before all of you leave, can I request everybody to please put on their cameras so I can take a quick picture of all of us on the call? Shraddha's iPhone, Divesh, Girish. Pri, we
You
can't see
You
you.
still pose like a model. Manish.
Okay. Here we go. All set. Big smiles. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you so much to everyone for
Thank
joining
you,
us.
guys.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much, Manish and Sujata.
Thank you so much, Foreign Charity, and everyone go onto their Instagram page, Foreign Charity. They've got great things happening. I think they've got a good Instagram workshop next week, which I know I definitely need to be a part of. So please check out what they're doing and keep the donations coming. They're doing great work. I think you raised 27 or 28 lakhs, correct?
Bye.
Yeah, so when you're there, we don't need to say anything else. You got it all covered. Thank you.